Gaia and Ubuntu friends, welcome to our Ecospiritual News live stream. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for holding the intentions that you hold for a world where all beings have greater opportunities to thrive. I want to start with an offer. If you are watching live, and right now I don't see anyone, but that doesn't mean you're not there. If you are watching live, you can share in the chat where in the world you are right now so that we get a sense of our global community. If you're watching the recording later, maybe you can share that in the chat as well, just so that we get a sense of this gathering that's coming together from all around the world. Where I'm coming to you from is Santa Clara, California. This is the south end of the San Francisco Bay. It is unceded land, that is essentially stolen land from the Tamyan-speaking Ohlone people. Currently, there are two local groups who have ancestral claims to this land or interest in this land, including Tamyan Nation and Moakwa Ohlone people. So I am very humbled and very grateful to be in a place that was so full of life, so cherished by the people who originally lived here for thousands of years, not millions. There haven't even been humans for millions yet. Millions of years of thriving, thousands of years of human participation in the ecosystem and honoring the care that was involved in all of that. So delighted to be able to come to you from this amazing part of the world, and confident that wherever you are, it also has an ecological history and probably a human history that is rich and deep and important to understand. So I encourage you to learn a little bit more about that if you have a chance. So our usual outline for these live streams are to talk a little bit about recent events, news and commentary, to talk about upcoming events, especially relating to Novasutras, to suggest some actions that you might take this week to advance this idea of a world where all beings might thrive, to reduce the harm that is currently being done in the world. Then we'll get a little bit more into some of the ideas, practices, and philosophies within Novasutras. And today we're going to really focus on this intersection of the words that we choose and how they're affected in the world. I'll take you through a little bit of a guided meditation after that, and then we will close out. So, just to remind you once again, the mission of Novasutras is to enact change through eco-spiritual community. We are reawakening our deep, deep connection with the living world so that we can reclaim our joy, so that we can honor our pain, so that we can grow trusted relationships, and so that we can take meaningful action in service to all life. The intention of Novasutras has been to help people understand that there is a necessary interconnection between the inner work that we do to keep ourselves resilient, the community building that keeps us together, and the actions that we are taking in the world. So that's a bit of what we'll be highlighting today. So next, I think I will walk you through the calendar of some of our upcoming events that highlight this intersection. And you can always find the latest as often as I'm able to update it on novasutras.org/events, or just go to the Novasutras main page and look for the events link. So on our events page, we've got these separated somewhat into online group meditation events and then other kinds of conversations and celebrations. What's happening right now is the Ecospiritual News live stream. In 2 days, we'll be doing an online meditation event, Gratitude for Earth in the Full Moon. Oh, and in the meanwhile, there are a few events tomorrow that are hosted by companion groups. This co-creation of practices space is with Deep Transformation Network. This is Unitarian Universalist Ministry for the Earth meditation. The Gaian Way, Gaianism.org, hosts a Gaian book club that they're just starting, talking about a book by Ursula Goodenough, The Sacred Depths of Nature, that I highly recommend. And after that, they're also offering a talk on the Gaia paradigm. And I'm really intrigued by this perspective, so highly recommend it. You can also see here, this is for people in Santa Clara and Santa Cruz County. The Friends of Uristock have their community action meeting usually on the last Thursday of the month. Friday, because it's the full moon, I will be offering a full moon meditation, and Unitarian Universalist Ministry for the Earth is offering their full moon gathering a little bit after that also. First of the month, if you're following Novasutras or me, Michelle Merrill, on Insight Timer, you'll find out about these, I believe. But the 1st and 15th of every month, we offer group meditations for the Novasutras group on Insight Timer. So that's a chance to listen to a recording and come together with a text chat as well. So please do join us on Insight Timer and check that out if you can. That's on the 1st of the month, at least California time. Early on the 2nd of the month, I believe, if you're in New Zealand or Australia. Monday, October 2nd is World Habitat Day, and People versus Fossil Fuels has their regular organizing call on Mondays. On Tuesday, we have the listening space, a really wonderful offering on the Deep Transformation Network. And then also the monthly live network meeting. That's the first Tuesday of every month. So these are really great gatherings of the Deep Transformation Network, usually hosted by Jeremy Lent. Really rich conversations, well worth getting into if you haven't tried those yet. So very much encouraging that. On October 4th, in collaboration with Deep Transformation Network, I'll be offering meditation for regeneration, meditate together for regeneration session. October 5th, UU has their meditations. October 6th, I'll be offering, again, on Insight Timer, these moon phase meditations are offered generally on Insight Timer as a way to gather globally. Sunday, October 8th is World Migratory Bird Day and also the beginning of Earth Science Week. And a group called the Online Earth Holder Sangha is gathering. So you might be wanting to join that. Monday, October 9th is Indigenous Peoples Day in the United States. So this is a good time to honor and celebrate, both honoring the pain of colonialism, as many continue to celebrate the rather violent and ultimately genocidal Christopher Columbus, while others choose to honor the pain of the experience, but also the resilience and strength and action of Indigenous peoples in the Americas. Our next live stream session will be on October 10th. That's a Tuesday, and it's going to be a little bit shifted a couple of hours later, just trying out different times to see what the response is there and accommodating my availability for various things. Wednesday, October 9th is International Day of the Girl, and we're offering, October 11th, International Day of the Girl, and we're offering another meditation for regeneration. And we're doing those weekly at varied times throughout the months of October, November, and December, again, to see what the global response is and see what times work best for those. So the rest of that, I will fill you in when I do the live stream on October 10th. But that gets us some of the upcoming events that you might want to take part in. Next, I want to tell you about actions that you can be taking this week. One is from one of my favorite large organizations, the Rainforest Action Network. And they are there it is. They are calling on people to sign a petition that's actually kind of a good news petition. It's in support of an agreement in Indonesia with various members of the palm oil industry that they've made a pact to end deforestation in Sumatra. And that could lead to much greater protection of a lot of the remaining Indonesian rainforest, super important for climate stability, in addition to absolutely vital habitat for many endangered species, including Sumatran orangutans and Sumatran tigers. So again, we'll have a little look at that petition. So you'll see what you should see when you follow that link. And that link is already in the video description. So please do it now if you can and sign on to help protect the rainforests in East Aceh. This is part of the area, near the area where I worked. And again, we've got Sumatran orangutans and tigers, rhinos, elephants, and sun bears. All of these species are endangered, and the protection of these forests from the threat of deforestation for palm oil plantations is essential. And right now we're calling on big brands that use palm oil, including Unilever, PepsiCo, and Mondelez International, to pledge to only use what they're calling conflict-free palm oil that is grown in places that did not contribute to deforestation. We have another petition that is a little bit more US specific. So for those of you in the United States, if you're familiar with Costco, the group Third Act, in a partnership with Stop the Money Pipeline, Oil and Gas Action Network, Climate Defenders, and other groups, has set up a petition, even if you don't have any affiliation with Costco, urging you to sign this petition to call on Costco to drop their relationship with Citibank. Citibank is one of the top 4 banks that are providing financing for new climate projects. So it's really important that we send as many messages and as strong messages as we can to these huge banks to stop funding their fossil fuel projects. And Costco, because their credit card is such a large client of Citibank, is an excellent target for sending this signal even more strongly, for amplifying that message that it is time for Citibank to stop funding fossil fuels. So hope that you can sign that petition as well. Stopping the funding of fossil fuels is something that has been really important in my personal activism, in the activism that Novasutras has been helping out with our organizing and publicity. The stopping of the financing of fossil fuels is one place where we have a lot of power, a lot of leverage with groups that can easily make decisions that will make a difference. Targeting fossil fuel companies is hard because they absolutely rely on fossil fuel extraction. It's the vast majority of their business, and asking them to stop now does mean basically asking them to shut themselves down. Would be a great thing to do, but it's a really hard ask for them to agree to. Whereas fossil fuel financiers, that's only a small percentage of their business. They could easily stop financing fossil fuel projects, which would cause those fossil fuel projects not to move forward. And those banks, it would not make a big dent. It would be something that they could do very easily. So that's why we're calling on them. But the other place where there's a lot of leverage is executives at the state and national levels who have the power of the pen to say no to leasing the space where fossil fuel extraction can take place. So I was part of an action in Sacramento, California, that was calling on our governor, Gavin Newsom, to stop allowing new oil and gas lease of California lands. I'm going to share a wonderful video that was made by one of our allies that highlights that. Getting that set up. And here we go.
They have lied for decades, and they have cost people their lives and their health. And so California is standing up and saying, we're going to hold you accountable.
Rise up, we gotta rise up to end fossil fuels. Rise up, we gotta rise up.
The Newsom administration is still approving oil drilling permits. They could say no. say we don't think it's safe or appropriate to continue to drill in California. And it's with our voices that we apply that pressure to the administration to end fossil fuels.
And that was one of many actions that happened all around the world, including, you probably heard about the big demonstrations in New York that were happening the same day. That was the 17th of September. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of what I encountered there and this idea of how we send these messages and how we work with that in ways that can be most powerful. So that's coming up in a little bit, but I wanted to share that sample of a somewhat smaller local action, though, of course, you know, California is a huge state, bigger than a lot of countries in Europe. And so having a pretty good turnout, and we did have several hundred people there, at least a few hundred people there. This is sending messages. And I know there were lots of Californians who actually did travel to New York to take part in those actions as well, including some of my good friends and colleagues from Sacramento. So that was part of this climate week that was connected to United Nations gatherings and the Climate Ambition Summit, which notably a lot of the big world leaders did not attend. But many of the countries that are already experiencing pretty extreme impacts from the shifting climate, from this ongoing climate emergency, they are calling on much stronger, much more rapid actions in response to the climate crisis. One more small bit of good news before we move on from our news of the week. I wanted to tell you about the results of our funding drive in August. We were calling on people to sign up onto our Patreon. And with that regular monthly support, we committed to those who increased their support on Patreon or who signed up anew, that they would those funds would go to protecting orangutan habitat in Bukit Tigapulu. Bukit Tigapulu is again in that area in Sumatra where we have orangutans, tigers, sun bears, rhinos, elephants. And this is funding to help support the work on the ground of protecting that habitat. Novasutras already had pledged $14 to protect 4 hectares of land. We did that back in February and have been making ongoing payments to support protecting Bukit Tigapulu. That's 13 hills, if you know your Bahasa Indonesia. So this month, we did gain $29 in new pledges, and that allowed us to commit to preserving 8 more in addition to the 4 that we had already protected. So we now have 12 hectares that Novasutras is signed on to protect in Bukit Tigapulu ecosystem as part of the orangutan project. The 4 that we did. I don't know why the certificate came through in April, but whatever. And the 4 that we did based on the pledges that were made in August and began in September. So wanted to take just a moment to give a big thank you to the people who expanded their support on Patreon and to all of our ongoing Patreon supporters. If you believe that you're a Patreon supporter and your name is not here right now, that might be because your credit card on file has been declined. Usually that's just an expiration date thing. So be sure to go back onto Patreon and re-up that if you don't see your name there and you thought you would. Again, big thank you to everyone who is making these monthly donations, and especially to those who stepped up and added some more in August. Monthly donations are how we keep programs going, how we, keep our Zoom account and our website going and make things happen. So this kind of ongoing support is really crucial, and I am deeply, deeply grateful to each one of these wonderful people who are helping us out. And of course, would be so delighted if you chose to join them. Okay, well, in the time that we have left, I want to talk a little bit about the language that we use when we are talking about, when we are doing our activism, when we are trying to change behavior in the world. In Novasutras, we are thinking very deeply about the language we use. And this is because there is very good research on the importance of our linguistic framing in how we think about the issues that we're addressing. And in particular, one of the choices that we've made in Novasutras is to try and avoid language that focuses on conflict, especially talking about climate as a fight or a conflict. So when I'm at demonstrations like the one in Sacramento on the 17th, I actively avoid singing or chanting about fighting. And yet those words do come up a lot in the songs and chants of the movement. And I'm gonna give you a couple of samples of that. Of course, the one that comes up as a chant, and people fall into this very regularly, is a call and response. What do we do when we're under attack? Stand up, fight back. The Peace Poets actually contributed a song to this most recent action. And most of the messaging of the Peace Poets is typically really good, really spot on. But this one, again, they chose that fight framing. The lyrics were, when we organize to fight and win, when the people rise and you hear us sing, it's the end of fossil fuels. Now, it is a very powerful, energetic thing to be singing and chanting with a group of people. It's easy to get swept up in it. I often do. And yet I try to hold back when this fight language shows up. And part of that is because of my background in talking about interpersonal skills and communication. So to give you a little bit of a sampling of that and why that's important, I'm going to share with you some work that I did actually back in 2017 at the American Association for Sustainability in Higher Education conference. I offered a full workshop on techniques to foster interpersonal competences and talked specifically about the power of language and the metaphors that we use. Lakoff and Johnson have done a lot of research on this. And you may have heard, especially if you watched the movie Arrival, of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. This is the idea that the language that we use actually shapes our understandings. Our choice of metaphor, the words that we choose in framing an argument, particularly a political argument, end up shaping our thinking or constraining our thinking. Casanto's research around this Sapir-Whorf hypothesis says you can't necessarily absolutely change the way people see the world. It's not like in the movie where if you learn alien ciphers, you can see the future. But definitely the languaging we use shapes what we notice and what we remember about things and the ways that we think about things. Chen's research showed that different languages that think about past and future in different ways led to consistent different responses in economic behavior. The language we choose matters. So the challenge is, if we're talking about fighting fossil fuels, if we're talking about fighting climate change, then we are framing it as a contest, as a struggle in which some are going to win and some are going to lose. Instead, of course, what we should be thinking about is that this is a shared problem that we are solving together and that we need allies. So in thinking about what language works best, I've proposed that we might want to avoid mechanistic and linear metaphors, avoid anthropocentric, human-centered metaphors, ways of talking about things, avoid things that are simple, linear cause and effect without any room for complexity and feedback. Avoid things that tend to paint, we talk about sort of black and white issues, or it's either this way or that way. Certainly to avoid things that emphasize conflict and to avoid things that emphasize domination or stratification. We do have better alternatives. We can use natural and living systems metaphors rather than mechanistic ones. We can talk about things in a way that is not so focused just on humans and human interest, but takes the more than human world into account. We can use cyclic and systemic models rather than linear ones. We can talk about things in terms of continua, in terms of complexity. And we can emphasize cooperation and being all in it together when it comes to trying to find solutions. This doesn't mean that there aren't people who might lose a little bit. As I was saying earlier, if we do manage to end fossil fuels, which is something that we really must do, there are some corporations that will have to dissolve. Hopefully, the people in those are clever enough to figure out something else to do with their lives. Hopefully, the people who are currently invested in them will get their investments out before the losses pile up. We'll find other ways to thrive. There has been pressure for decades now for big organizations to divest from fossil fuels. We had a recent victory with that. New York University divesting from fossil fuels. But a lot of the big retirement groups, including in California, CalPERS and CalSTRS, are being asked to take their investments out of things that support fossil fuels. So when it comes to talking about climate change, whenever we can, there's a lot of power in not saying we're going to fight climate change, but saying we need to come together to solve the climate crisis, building allies instead of reinforcing enmity. Now, even with that, I'm going to give you just a little snippet of this wonderful song that gets stuck in my head because it is hard to beat a good groove. I'm just going to bring it in a little bit more here. And I'm realizing I'm not sharing quite right. So let's try that again. Oh, there we go. That should be okay.
I woke up feeling great. The birds are in the trees. They're singing me a melody. La 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 la, fuck the police. My head is on straight. My heart is in peace. My soul is incredibly ready to change history. It's a good day to fight the system. To fight the system. It's a good day. It's a good day. We're never gonna stop. We're gonna make it count. When one of us is tired out, the other one will hold it down. We're gonna spread the love. We're gonna spread it around. We're all over the city now, and way down in the underground. Come on.
So there is no doubt that the system needs to change. And there is no doubt that there is tremendous power and a great groove. So thanks to Shungudzo for that beautiful song. And let's talk if you want to work on finding new language so that we're not fighting the system. We're just changing the system, transforming the system, even though that doesn't fit the rhyme quite as well. Find a way to make it work. All right. So with that, I'm going to invite us to drop in to a little bit of a guided meditation. Again, meditation, a really important practice in Novasutras, recognizing that if all you're doing is meditating about changing the system and solving the climate crisis, that's not enough. But when it is combined with action, it makes us as change agents more effective, more resilient, and I believe it builds our power. So Feeling the beauty of the music, just begin to feel in your body for those centers of power. Feel for the strength of your love for the world. Feel for the strength of your passion for justice. Recognize that there are people all around the world who care just as deeply as you do, who are just as devoted to creating change in the world. When one of us is tired out, another comes to hold it down. Our power is in community. Our power is in allies. When we come together in meditation, and drop into that power, and we can drop into the vast power of the living earth. We can envision all of the beings who might thrive thanks to our collective action. All of the trees and forests made stronger. All of the rainforests that remain standing or have opportunities to recover, thanks to our actions to protect and defend them. Imagine the strength of all of those beings allied with our strength as agents for positive change in the world. The trees of the forests understood the importance of the work that we are doing as activists. Would they not lend their vast, deep strength to us? What would it feel like to know that the rainforests are our allies, sending their energy to support us in the difficult work we must do? What does it feel like to tap into the underground strength that is present, that we can celebrate? To allow that strength from all over the world to rise up in you. Feeling it moving up from the soles of your feet, up your legs, up into your low belly, up into your diaphragm, to bring strength to your breath, to bring strength to your voice when it is time for you to speak and chant and sing. That strength moving up into your heart space, that your love for the living world becomes unstoppable power for change. That strength rising up into your throat and mouth, that you might speak with conviction, speak with love, speak with compassion and unwavering resolution to protect, defend, restore, and regenerate a thriving biosphere where habitats for all beings, from humans to moss, from whales to earthworms, all beings have opportunities to thrive, to evolve into a more beautiful and loving future. And feeling that tremendous power from the living earth rising up into your head, that you might make wise choices about the language, the words, the mental models that we use and encourage in others, so that our actions might be most effective and most likely to lead to outcomes where all beings can be well and thrive. As you feel that energy moving all around you, let it go all the way out to the tips of your fingers, that you might offer your gifts with great loving kindness in the world. Start to bring a little motion into those fingers. And bringing a little motion into your toes and feet, that they might take you to the places where your gifts are most needed and most welcomed. Moving the legs and arms, the shoulders and hips, the spine and neck, and bringing your focus back to the here and now. Thank you for joining us in this work today. Thank you for taking the time to practice in meditation. Thanks to all that you do on behalf of a thriving earth. Remembering that our action on behalf of life is transformative. That as we work to heal the earth heals us. We hope that you will get more engaged with Novasutras, checking out our website, joining us on the Deep Transformation Network, learning more about and participating in our events, and finding our guided meditation recordings. Please do all that you can to help our reach grow on social media. That's the like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube and elsewhere. And again, if it is within your means, inviting you to support our work through monthly donations via Patreon. Again, that consistency of support is one of the things that can most help us grow and thrive in the world. So many thanks to those who are already supporting us on Patreon, and thanks to you as you consider if this is something that can work for you. And we'll see you again on October 10th. Be well.